What's up, Titans fans, and welcome to another episode of Titans Global Podcast. I'm your host, Maximus Titan Fan, and with me, as always, is my good buddy Link. What's up, bro?
What's going on, guys? Good to be here. As always, we want to thank you for making us a part of your Friday as we go into another pregame show. Before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Most importantly, give us a comment. We want to see y'all in the chat in that section. Hear your thoughts on this one, your predictions, what you think, and we'll give you ours. If you're already subscribed to us, give us a share. We want to reach as many people as possible. And with that, I guess we get into it, right? How we feeling this week?
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's not all doom and gloom against a 5-8 Bengals team. As far as the numbers, the normal crap goes, 5.5, 5 to 5.5, I guess is what I should say. A couple places was different on their spread, but 5 and 5.5 is what I saw. As far as the difference between the two teams, and the over under is 48.5. Is that about right? What you saw as well?
Yep. There's a few spots I saw you could get 46 and a half. I definitely like the 46 and a half over more than the 48 and a half over. But yeah, depending on which book you look at. I mean, either way, the lines moved on Cincinnati a little bit. I think it opened maybe 6.5, got all the way down to 4.5 at one point, which I thought was pretty easy money. And apparently, a lot of other people thought that too because it jumped right back up to 5.5. Um, I mean, I hate to say it, but that feels like a pretty safe bet to me. I mean, this is a Bengals team that you got to remember if their win record ratio was a little bit better, Joe Burrow is probably leading the MVP discussion. I mean, he's had an excellent season. The defense is really what's got Cincinnati.
Yeah, the passing game is not bad in Cincinnati. It hasn't gotten any worse. So yeah, they are definitely. As a matter of fact, they're number one in the NFL
Mm-hmm.
on their passing game. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right.
Yep.
Because that's the big showdown between these two teams is Titans number one passing defense against the Bengals number one passing offense.
I mean,
Anyway,
well, to get to that, I mean, obviously you got Awuzie back last week. We talked about it in the before we came on. You know, he's probably going to be a bigger part of this defense. Do you trust Tennessee's defense against this offense? I mean, that's really what it comes down to because I don't see them being able to hold Cincinnati under, say, what, 28. I mean, is that your magic number for the offense on with what they've got to put on the board, or do you think the defense can do a little bit better than that?
um, I'll be honest with you, man. I feel like the defense can hold them a little bit better than that. I feel like 24-21 is somewhere around. I'll be honest with you. I didn't do a score prediction. However, I did take the under on 48.5 between these two teams. I don't think these two teams get past 48.5 points. Now, maybe that's because the Titans suck it up and don't get more than 6 or 8 points, 10 points, whatever. Or maybe it's just a combination of the two. Don't get, but I just don't. I feel like 48.5 points, 48, 49. Either way you want to look at it, I think that's too many points.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the Titans had even somewhat of a competitive offense, which we did not see last week, like I would like the over. I'm at a point this season where I can't trust this offense to score more than 13 points. I mean, obviously 17's been the hurdle it feels like this year, but has the offense got worse? I mean, I know emotions are kind of high. Maybe I'm still overreacting after last week's performance, but I don't know. And there's a lot of things you can point to. I mean, you can still point to quarterback play. You can point to play calling. I know people have difference of opinions, but I haven't seen improvement in this offense. It feels like all season. It's one step forward, two steps back. I don't know. I just can't trust them to get over that 13, 17 point mark.
I'll say this. I don't know if it's Callahan or if it's the fact that we got off to such a bad start and we really haven't recovered from it. Uh, so I don't know exactly why, but for some reason, a lot of times I feel like the effort isn't there 100%. Um, but just like the Texans game, I feel like this game there is a lot for everybody to be on the same page of wanting to put their best face forward to try to beat this Bengals team that obviously Callahan had a big part in. And well, I don't know if I would say a big part, but he had uh, you know, making them who they are. So obviously, everybody wants to beat their old team. That's it's just a thing. So I feel like a lot of his players are going to be extra motivated this week to try to have a good go win one for Cali. That's what their motto probably is this week. I don't know.
Well, and see, normally I would think that, and I'm not saying, look, I've been pretty adamant that I don't think he's lost the locker room. Just I don't know. I don't know if this team if they've got that kind of fight in them, and I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. Um, I just think after the lackluster performance you saw last week, like I don't know if this team has a bounce back. I really hope they do. I hope they find a way to come put points on the board. But I mean, just while we're on it, I mean this Cincinnati Bengals team, Callahan being the offensive coordinator, not the play caller. That's an important note. But I mean, that's what got him this job as a head coach. So I definitely think in the back of his mind, he's wanting to go out and have kind of that prove it coaching performance. Um, this is going to be a big gauge point for me to see how well Callahan can put together a game plan. Because I feel like if Tennessee is going to have a chance in this game, it's going to be not necessarily a shootout, but they're going to have one of their better offensive performances just to keep up with what the Bengals are able to do. I mean, this is a team, we talked about it. It's the leading passer. They have the leading receiver in Jamar Chase, who is just an absolute freak of nature on the field. They've got the leading sack stat with what they've got on defense. I don't know. This one to me feels like almost a trap game for Cincinnati, because if Callahan can put together a scheme and an offense that can put points on the board this week, again, that's what it's going to take. My trust level there just isn't where I want it to be. So we'll learn a lot. I mean, I think this is going to be a major, going forward, whether Callahan has all the success or whether he's not even a coach on this team. I think this is going to be one of those games you can look back to the first time against his former team and what he was able to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big gauge that people, I posed the question when I put the show up, why should we even watch this game? Because, it's not a whole lot of playoff implications here. Really nothing to look forward to except for Cali beating his own team, if that is the case. But yeah, so I feel like I don't know. I'm having a rough time with this one, man. But they both know each other really well. I feel like Callahan knows what he wants to do against Taylor. Does Taylor know what he wants to do against Callahan? I don't know. I'm interested to see that, and the fact that, like you said, this is where we're going to see how he adjusts his play calling against his form, because obviously he's going to know exactly what they want to do. I mean, they haven't changed their game plan any between this year and last year, I don't think. So I feel like that's going to be exactly the same. So we're going to see how Callahan and how Taylor kind of throws little counter punches at him and see how he adjusts to that. So I think it'll be a really important game to look at coaching and play calling.
Well, and I think Denard Wilson's in that same boat. I mean, I think if that's a guy who wants a head coaching gig in this league, like, this is an important week for him, because this is arguably the best offense right now. I know that I'm trying not to pay attention to the record because that 4-8 really doesn't do this team justice. Like when you look at the numbers, when you look at the performances, when you watch the tape, like this offense is going to do whatever they want and dare you to stop them. And to this point, it's been really difficult for teams to do that. The only game they've lost a lot of close games, and most of them have been shootouts. So that's why I like the Bengals in this one. But to get back to it, yeah, I mean, Denard Wilson, if he can show up and put together a defense that can hold this team under that 28, 24 point mark, I think that says a lot about him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've been competitive against teams that people thought we didn't have a chance with already this year. As far as the defense goes, our offense is still pretty lacking, but the defense has actually kept us in a lot of games that I feel like we had no business being in, really. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes, and can he? Obviously, I don't know how he figures out anything different at this point, but can he generate some kind of pressure? My God, our pressures are terrible. I think it was like 8 games or 6 games with 10 or less pressures, which is just sad. But Awuzie coming back should help, right? I mean, Awuzie should be playing, I don't know, what, 75% of the snaps or so?
Yeah, I mean, my fear there, and I know we haven't really got to injury report, but just to touch on a little bit, the problem is you get him back, and then all of a sudden McCrary's on the injury report. So not nobody's been ruled out yet, but I think that's going to be an important piece too because McCrary, who's one of the last draft picks that this team's had in the last couple years or prior to last year. If he's out, then you're right back in the same situation where you're still short at depth in the secondary. So yeah, you've got to find a way to generate pressure just to help your DBs out because I talked about Chase. He's going to find ways to get open. He's going to make the plays that he makes. It's just a matter of limiting those. So the scheme and how he's able to dial up pressure, that's gonna probably be the game decider for me. I mean, if you can put Joe Burrow under pressure, get some sacks, force him into a turnover, he hasn't had many. I think 6 interceptions to 33 touchdowns. If you can find a way to kind of flip those stats a little bit and make him uncomfortable, which no other NFL team has really been able to do this year, then yeah, that's your path to victory, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, I think I just brushed right over the injury report. I didn't even really mention it, but there are some kind of worrisome, questionable people like Otis Reese. Our linebacker core is already thin. I don't really want to lose another potential starter, or at least at this point, he's a potential starter. But he's been out. Last 2 practices, he didn't participate. I think he had a limited practice the first Monday, but then it did not. So questionable. Tony Pollard's questionable too. I think he plays, but got to give it up. Tony Pollard. He's probably been the most consistent bright spot on the Titans team this year. So to see him, kind of injured at this point in the game, it's like, darn it. I wish we could just let him heal himself up, come back 100% healthy next week or something like that, and continue what he's doing. I hope he doesn't aggravate that injury if he does play. And Roger McCreary, you talked about that. Jalen Duncan, I don't understand why he's questionable. We were talking about that pre-show. He had 3 full practices, yet he's still designated as questionable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have words for that. I don't know. Especially so, you release Leroy Watson, then Duncan shows up on the injury report. I mean, this tackle situation. I ask every week. There's so many holes. Where do you start? The more and more I get into this, like you have to fix that tackle situation. This rotating door of trying to find someone who's good enough, and then questionable personnel decisions as far as substituting during the middle of drives, releasing Leroy Watson. Like I don't know. I'm I think that's still your biggest problem in my opinion. Even more so than quarterback, more so than skill position players. You've got to shore up this line before next season. That has to be priority number one.
Yeah, so this is going to lead to another question at the end of this. It's actually something I think we didn't talk about pre-show. I forgot to talk to you about it, but it just kind of sprung up in my mind. But yeah, it looks like they're just going to go with MPF and then, throw John Juku out there every now and then. I don't know. Chip extra blocker or something. I don't know. It's silly. But
what have you seen in Ajuku that you haven't seen in Leroy Watson? As someone just who watches the guy, I know we're not at practice, we're not on the sideline, but have you seen anything special from Ajuku that would give him a spot on this roster over Leroy Watson?
I mean, he's athletic for his size. Other than that, no. I mean, to be honest, Leroy Watson was probably, the time he did play was probably the best at the position. But, we have no idea what, what went on behind closed doors, practice sessions. Neither one of us have the privilege of going to practices. So we don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe he had a really bad attitude while he was injured. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything about that. But just the fact that they completely just let him go, it worries me a little bit. But at the same time, are they trying to get better at this point in the season? I mean, that's a real question. Like
it depends. Why? It depends. I mean, if your goal is still to evaluate Will Levis, you have to put the best line out there to get the best evaluation of Levis. So that's my thing. Like if you're gonna still be competitive at this point in the season at tackle and at offensive line, like it's just to evaluate your quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's why I ask. It was a head scratcher for me, and like you said, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but it's hard to evaluate anything on offense when you're this bad at one position. And I know J.C. Latham, he's had a rough last few games. Skaronsi maybe hasn't played his best, but well enough that you can get an idea of what this offense is supposed to be. But right tackle is just so pitiful. It's hard to do anything on that side of the field.
Yeah, so that first of all, give a quick shout out since we're on the offensive line. Give a quick shout out to Brunskill. The fact that you haven't heard his name mentioned since he took over for the center spot is a good thing. That means he's just doing his job. That's what you want out of an offensive lineman. Not that he's doing a stellar job. I'm just saying he's doing his damn job. That also brings me to the question that I posed. Would you re-sign Dylan Radens to a contract to be our right guard for the next couple of years?
Yes, and I would sign him. I would sign him to the roster if he would take the money that's fair for a depth piece. I'll put it that way. I don't think. Can you go
into give him starter money?
No, I don't. I mean, can you go into next season with him as your starter? I mean, yeah, but you need to have some other competition there, in my opinion. Whether that's a young guy, whether that's a free agent. I mean, you've got to have somebody else there that at least you plan on being your starter. Because while I do think he's been a good piece and done what he's been asked to do, look, it's the same thing with NWI. Do I want him on the roster? Yes. Do I really want him to be my second wide receiver? Do I want Radens to be my starting guard? No. I mean, I just don't. I want better from that position. I want a more skilled player with more talent. I think he's good in a pinch. He's a good depth piece. If an injury happens, he can come in and do the job well enough. But if you ask me, you have three starters on this line right now. You have three starters, and one of them's injured. So I think Cushenberry, your center, he's good enough to be a starter. He's a proven vet. I think J.C. Latham has shown enough as a rookie that he can be a starter in this league. And look, Skoronski, he's kind of tipping the scale for me. Like he's a really good player. I think he has potential, but I still need to see a jump this offseason for me to say that's your guy at left guard. So I think there's still a lot of work to do. And while Radens should have a spot on the roster, I don't necessarily want him to be the starter.
Sco had a pretty good last 3 games. I think his passing grade was like 89 or something like that on PFF. His run not so much, but the passing game has come up a lot, and I mean that's what we want anyway, isn't it?
It is, and I do give him a little bit of grace. Obviously, he wasn't able to play a full season last year, so he's still technically kind of in his first season as a starter. I do think he's gotten better. Again, I just want to see the consistency, and same thing from Latham. You know, he's had a bad last couple games. Just want to see a little consistency, but I think both those guys have the talent to be long-term options on this team on the offensive line. You just got to give them a little bit of help.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be something going on there that's going to be different. And they're not really doing anything. I mean, I guess they picked up another tackle when they released Leroy Watson. I don't even remember the dude's name, but obviously nobody's mentioning him, so I don't think he's going to be any kind of help at this point. And again, why would you start somebody brand new at this point unless there's an injury? Just doesn't make any sense. All right, let's move on to something else. I'm getting irritated. As far as the Bengals injury report, real quick, I did want to say Orlando Brown is out. That's probably the biggest injury to me that I see. Sheldon Rankin is out. He's pretty good defensive lineman. Those two things right there, not so much Rankin, but Orlando Brown gives me hope that maybe there's some kind of a defensive pressure this game. If I do think there's going to be pressure coming, I feel like it's going to come more. I don't know. I was going to say Key right off the top, but I don't know because, I mean, you look over the whole season, Harold Landry has more sacks, but Key seems to show up like in these. I don't know.
He shows up when he wants to show up. I mean, that's the thing for me. Like again, we talk about giving effort every single play. I think that Key does have talent, but I don't think he's been consistent enough. Now, that's not to say he can't go out and get 3 sacks this game. I mean, that's a good possibility, and it's also a good possibility that he comes out and gets no sacks, no pressures. I mean, either thing is just as likely to happen. And that's the issue for me. It's just, you haven't got what you expected out of Key, out of Landry, Landry especially. I mean, I love the guy, but this has been a very, very big letdown season for him in a year where we thought he was going to be at possibly his best. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the pressure comes from. I mean, I want to say the interior. That's where you would want to see it come from, right? From Simmons and Sweat. Like that's what you would want. But again, we just haven't seen the consistency that they can do it. So I don't know. Again, this is one of those prove it games for this defense. If they're able to at least keep pace with this offense and shut down some opportunities, I think it would be a big win. If nothing else, just to feel a little bit more confident about this defense going forward into next year.
I will say, yeah, right. I will say though that this is the first week in a while that both Sweat and Simmons are not on the injury report at all. Neither one of them, took any days off or anything like that. It was just a normal week of practice for both of them. So that's kind of nice to see. But yeah, haven't seen that consistency through them. Simmons has played really well since he came back from the elbow injury. But Sweat all of a sudden trailed off. So yeah, it's a little frustrating there. But hoping that both of them get right this week, maybe next. I don't know. Season's almost over, so it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be all doom and gloom, you guys. Stick around, about 40-second ad here, and then we'll be right back. We'll talk about some more fun stuff. What's up, Titans fans? Maximus Titan fan here. Are you in need of professional excavation services? Look no further. Red Zone Builders has the expertise, experience, and equipment to handle all or any excavation project, big or small. Whether you need land clearing, site preparation, trenching, foundation excavation, or any other excavation services, they have you covered. Their team of skilled professionals work diligently to ensure your project is completed safely, efficiently, and to your satisfaction. Trust the experts at Red Zone Builders to get the job done right. All right, so we're back. Yay. I also saw this comment while I was gone. First of all, I'll go ahead and address this. I don't understand why everybody's on Amy Adams Trump so hard. And we talked a little bit pre-show about a story I obviously got to go read, but I just don't understand all the hate towards her. She has tried. She put her own money up. And then this I really don't understand. If we wanted to, I mean, maybe if we wanted to re-sign Henry and run him to the end of his, NFL days and stay doing the exact same thing we were doing, I still don't know if we would have any more wins, maybe 2 or 3. But that's not really still. I mean, we're still in the conversation, I guess, but that's not good enough for me. I don't know. I'm just saying, they say it gets the darkest before the dawn. It's definitely really dark right now. So
I have thoughts on this, and I'm gonna start talking, and I may go off on a tangent at some point. But I think my initial thoughts to that comment, as far as should have kept Vrabel, I think it's time will tell. Because if you had have told me last year, um, before the Vrabel firing, if you said, look, this offense, um, it's going to be roughly the same thing without Derrick Henry. It's going to be very run heavy. It's going to be a physical defense. I think you probably would say, well, let's keep Vrabel because that's kind of his identity. That's what his team's identities are. Um, Amy, in my opinion, there's a lot of stuff where I'm kind of torn on that because I want a good balance in an owner. I don't want a Jerry Jones who's involved every single day, putting comments in the media, starting stuff with radio stations. I mean, basically a radio station disagreed with him, and because he owned that radio station, threatened to fire. I think that's too far. Um, I'm also not a huge fan. And look, I know what happens in a lot of organizations. Um, and I won't even say I'm not a big fan of it. It's the owner doesn't live here. She's not at every single game. Her family has a history with this team going back to Bud Adams. Even when Tennessee moved here, Bud Adams did not move to Tennessee with him. He stayed there. He had a lot of businesses in Houston. So that's kind of just how it's always been. There was an article in this Tennessean, and I wasn't going to really bring it up in this show until next week. But basically, paraphrasing, it just said that she needs to come out and make a statement. She needs to come out and talk to the fans about the projection of this team going forward, why things, in her opinion, haven't worked out this year. And I don't totally disagree with that. I do expect her to be pretty vocal in the off season. At least I would hope that she is, because I think there are questions that need to be answered, not by Callahan, not by Carthon, but by the owner of this organization. I think she should at least be able to tell us why we were promised this brand new offense, moving into the next evolution of football. Um, this was not stated as a full rebuild, and it's turned into a complete tear down everything to the foundation and start over. And yeah, I think she should answer for that. I think she should get in front of a podium, tell us why it failed, and tell us what the direction is moving forward. So for me, that's why I say I think the jury's still out on this. Depending how she handles it, depending what her words are, seeing how she responds to one of the biggest letdown seasons in this organization, um, then I'll make my full opinion. So right now I'm still in wait and see mode, and that's really the most I can say about it because I'm not sold on Callahan, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have fired Vrabel, but if this was the offense they knew they were getting, then why would you have? You're a worse football team than you were last year. I mean, it's that simple. You're a worse football team with different talent. And I saw things work last year that hasn't worked with this coaching staff this year.
I'll agree with you there. Definitely, though, I think that we started off this season seeing a much different game plan than we are seeing right now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the play that he's gotten out of certain players. Obviously, Levis, the offensive line, like I said, the best game I've seen so far this season, I think, was Houston. That was our best offensive game as far as I've seen. The best adjustment at halftime. Play calling was right on. I mean, there were things about that game that just clicked. Everything clicked, it seemed like. Even though we still had plenty of problems in that game, it still worked out. We had a decent offense, but I don't know. It's just rough when you have the inconsistency of the execution. I mean, like, it's another one of the things I wanted to talk about that I talked about on social media. Pointed out the fact that Levis missed a wide open Chigakonkwo when he was clearly the second read, and I got a lot of people arguing with me that that's somehow Callahan's fault and that that's just bad play calling to have two receivers that close to each other, which I think Van Nett was trying to get away from the defensive back and trying to get in front of him. That's why he came a little bit closer to Chig's route. Still, though, I don't understand what that has to do with anything. The fact that Chig was wide open means that it worked. People say it's a busted coverage. Well, busted coverage is what you're trying to do as an offensive coordinator. That's a dumb argument. I mean, you're trying to fool the defense. That's exactly what you're trying to do. So if you get busted coverage, that means you won. Whether it's bad on the defense or good on you, either way, it looks good on you because that's what you're trying to do as an offensive coordinator, play caller. That's what you do. So I thought that was a little silly, and that just made me dig further into the game, which another easy touchdown that Will Levis missed was the play where he threw it at NWI, which it actually hit him in both hands. NWI by all right should have caught that ball. But Calvin Ridley was 2 to 3 yards ahead of the defensive back. I mean, he had him dead to rights. If he'd have hit him in stride, it'd been a touchdown. Even if he didn't hit him in stride, it's still been a touchdown. It's just it's frustrating. And again, then Calvin Ridley caught the ball and just runs out of bounds. Now, I don't know if you want to blame that on Will Levis throwing the ball too late for him to being able to stop his momentum. Doesn't look like he even gave any effort to stop his momentum or redirect his momentum, but the execution is a problem. It really is. And the fact that I guarantee you that if we were able to see the playbook, which we're not privy to, but if we were able to see the playbook, I guarantee you the execution is immensely frustrating for these coaches at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'll also say like it can be both. Like that's why like we talked about last week, the percentage of blame. Like, is the execution bad? Is the personnel bad? Yes, that is 100% true. At the same time, could Callahan call plays or a game plan that maybe better suits these players? Possibly. I mean, we don't know that. We don't know the answer to that question, and that's why I think he probably gets another year to show that maybe I can get some better players in here, some guys that I think can run my system. Um, but I don't know, because sometimes even the situational stuff, like the red zone offense, I don't think you can put all that on performance. Like, I don't think you can put all that on execution. I think we've seen times when they should have ran the ball and they've decided to throw it 3 times. I think we've seen moments where they could have ran the ball. Tony Pollard's hot, and they throw. I mean, it's situational stuff. It's clock management. It's trying to throw up a Hail Mary from the 50-yard line when your offensive line is as bad as it is, and then you get your quarterback absolutely leveled and re-agitates an injury to his shoulder. Like, it's those types of things. It's the situational stuff. You just don't do that. You just don't do that. So I don't know. I do agree with you in the point that execution is poor, but I'm not ready to say that I'm happy with this coaching. I'm just not. Not even from a play calling perspective, but just from a situational perspective.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't think that I'm giving Callie any kind of slide there or anything like that. I'm definitely not. Honestly, I feel like the best thing, and I know we've mentioned it many times on the show, best thing for him to do is to find a play caller. If not Nick Holtz, I mean, they can both design the plays, but he doesn't need to be head coach and play caller in the first year. It's just bad. It's just no good. I don't like it. I guess it worked for Zach Taylor, and he's probably going to stick to it until he's either gone or succeeds. So, but I think it's just a terrible idea. But yeah, like you said, there's a bunch of situational things that I don't really like. The timeouts, um, the 2-minute drills, the red zone offense. There's all kinds of questionable things about this team that's happened this year. So I'm not giving Brian Callahan any kind of slide or anything like that. I'm just saying that there is it's like somebody else said. I can't remember who said it, to be honest. I'm on social media so much. But somebody said they want to blame just Callahan, or they want to blame just Will Levis, or they want to blame just the offensive line. And it's not. It's everything. It's all of them. All those things can be bad at the same time.
Mhm.
And it creates a team that's 3-10. That's what happens. I mean, nobody's doing great.
When your
Except for,
roster's bad, your coaching bad, and your execution is bad, you're just a bad football team. I mean,
exactly.
I love this team and I'm a fan of this team, but at the same time, I can call it like it is. And at the end of the day, this is just a bad football team.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, at this point, a lot of people, again, I don't believe in tanking, but it would be the best thing for us to happen for us, would be to lose out. Lose every single game, make it tight games, have good individual performances or whatever spots you can see that are working, but still lose the game overall. That would be the best thing that could happen for the team. I hate even saying that, but at 3-10, there's absolutely no reason to continue to be competitive. So it doesn't. But these are the problems, because I'm a huge fan. I don't want to ever see my football team lose. I always want to root for them. I want to watch them on Sunday. I'm going to watch them on Sunday. I'm going to be rooting for them to win, even though I think the best solution, or the best thing, the best outcome for us to do is to lose. I'm still going to be rooting for us to win, because I'm a fan above all else, above the looking at all this crap or trying to figure out this or what they're doing. Above all that, I'm a fan, and I enjoy watching football most of the time. And that's what I'm going to try and do, is just enjoy the rest of these games, look at the individual performances that I can pick out, and hopefully won't get super frustrated at the play calling or Levis throwing it to the wrong guy, or, whatever it is that happens Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to your point, and this kind of relates to that comment. Unfortunately, like we need to kind of buckle in because we might have a couple years of this because you're going to have to build this team through the draft. That's just the only way you're going to be able to do it. I mean, free agency, yeah, you're going to bring some guys in and basically what you're going to pitch to them is, hey, we're building a new team and our plan is to build it around you for as long as you're here. Like that's what you have to pitch to free agents. But realistically, I mean the draft is where the best teams in the NFL are homegrown teams. They have homegrown offensive linemen. They have guys they've acquired through the draft. And if you look back at the Titans draft history, up until last year, it's been
Terrible.
extremely poor. Extremely, extremely poor. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, other than last year, I think over the last 2, maybe 3 drafts, Roger McCreary is all that's left. That's it. That's it. And that's why we're in the situation we're in. If you want to get down to the nitty gritty, why are the Titans bad in 2024? It's because they don't have the players they should have been getting in 21, in 22, even going back to 2020. Like that's why we're where we're at. And it takes some time to be able to build a roster out of young guys. Now I think they've gotten off to a good start with guys like Brownlee, with guys like Sweat, with guys like Latham. You've just got to continue to hit on it. But again, we may be facing 2 to 3 years of this until we can get the guys in here that we need that can run a system. It's just where we're at as an organization.
Yeah, that's not incorrect. I mean, we could be 2 or 3 years into this. I mean, even when I was looking at trying to find the silver lining, the positives, the players, the coaches that started off terribly, like the Dan Campbell, the Zach Taylor, and then they, slowly worked their team back to a contender within 3 years. Both of them did it. So I was hoping that Brian Callahan, I am still hoping that Brian Callahan can do that for us. Like you said, though, man, that is the biggest problem we've had as Titans, especially for the last 3 or 4 years, is draft picks not being either retained or just being terrible draft pick. I mean, look at Farley, first round draft pick, barely played a game for the Titans.
Isaiah Wilson.
I was going to say Isaiah Wilson.
If you
never even played a game.
If you draft an offensive lineman other than Isaiah Wilson, and they're still on this team, that's a success. Isaiah Wilson never took a snap. A first round draft pick, the guy who was supposed to be your J.C. Latham, never took a snap with this team. Like that,
Yep.
That in itself is all that should be said. And that's ultimately that's what got John Robinson fired. I mean, that's what it came down to, was the personnel that he put together wasn't good enough. He wasn't able to find talent. He wasn't able to get the right guys on the team, and that's why Carthon's here.
Yeah, and I feel like Carthon so far has drafted pretty well.
He has.
So I'm interested to see, hopeful to see where he takes the team if he gets, another couple years, which I feel like he will. So, again, we're just really getting to the end of the season, seeing what little individual sparkles we can find in the darkness. And we'll exactly. Yeah. That's just Anyway, and the only good first round draft pick that John Robinson ever had, he traded away. What a moron. I mean, for God's sake, anyway. I could go on about John Robinson all day, but that's in the past, and there's no real reason to bring that crap up because it's over.
What I will
is trudge on.
What I will talk about though is there has been young talent brought in, but you also have to continue to develop. I think we've seen flashes from guys. We've definitely seen flashes from Latham. We've seen the flashes from Sweat, from Brownlee, even Jaquan Jackson. Like there are flashes. There is talent there. We still need a coaching staff that can develop. And that's what's going to be the deal breaker for me with Callahan. Is if he does retain his job through this offseason, which I think he will, there needs to be a very solid jump from these rookies. They're good now. We need them to be better next year. Like I need to see that this coaching staff, because it doesn't matter how much talent you bring in, you have to continue to develop that talent. And that was a big knock on Vrabel. I mean, we questioned how good his development was. That's another reason Callahan was brought in, because he has a history with very good quarterbacks. Now, you can argue a lot of those quarterbacks were good before they got to Callahan. So it's kind of what came first, the chicken or the egg. But we'll see. Going into next year, that's the biggest thing I'm looking for. If Callahan and this coaching staff is still here, however many of them are left, it's going to be about development for me.
Yeah, and the main reason for me that he does get another season is because when you come in as a brand new coach, you're coming in. I mean, he didn't get hired until 2 months into the offseason, 3 months into the offseason. And then, you got to try to formulate your staff real fast. Get with your scout guys, find out who you want as far, as get with the GM, try to figure out the players that you're going after, what kind of game that you're going to scheme up. And then it's just different when you have a full off season. When you exit the off season, you get the month or two off that you usually get or whatever. When the guys, start to come back in, or even the head coach that doesn't take the month off, he takes a couple weeks off and then comes back in, starts, getting with his positional coaches, trying to figure the game out. That's where we see whether Callahan's worth it or not. And I think that's why he gets another season, just based upon that right there. That we want to see him with a full off season. How does he develop the team? Where does the team go with a full off season underneath him? And I think that's an important part of finding out whether he's the actual head coach or not. Plus, the fact that we signed him to a 5-year deal. And if we can Callahan this offseason, then we'll be paying Mike Vrabel, Callahan, and whoever the new head coach is for next year. And that's a lot of money, and we can't keep giving players guaranteed money if we keep eating up all Amy Adams Strunk's money with coaching contracts. And we already know that Amy Adams Strunk ain't got a whole bunch of change to throw around anyway as far as NFL owners go. So
let me say this, though. I don't think if it comes down to keeping or firing Callahan, money will not be the deciding factor. I firmly believe that, just because you're going into a new stadium in 2027, you have to have this figured out by then. You have to have at least a competitive football team that fans want to see, because I promise you, these games, like I'm talking to people going to these games, it is barely half full.
Oh, it was brutal last week.
If you go into a new stadium and can't put butts in chairs, you will lose a lot more money than you would on any type of buyout for this coaching staff. That's why I don't think when it comes down to buyouts or money or contracts, that is going to weigh zero on the decision to fire or keep Callahan. You can't have this product in 2027. It is not going to go well in Nashville.
I agree with you on that. I feel like everybody's pretty much on the same page that they're probably going to. They're more than likely going to get another year. I'll say this. I'll be surprised if he gets fired.
I would be surprised. But I was also surprised when Vrabel was fired.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'll say that too. We didn't see that, because we not saying kind of the other than first year head coach, first year play caller. Like other than that, we were pretty much saying the same thing. Like, well, Levis showed some flashes. He probably gets another year with this quarterback. Like he did enough. I mean, we kept the Jags out of the playoffs, and like this team is worse now than it was then. And I don't think you can blame that on losing Henry. I don't think you can blame that on losing Tannehill. Like this should have been a better football team. On paper, this was a better football team. But for whatever reason, the execution, the game plans, the physicality, the effort, it all got worse. So
I will say this. When we switched from Vrabel to Callahan, you have to admit the injury bug is much different. There was a big question there of whether Vrabel was just coaching too hard or whether there was like a strength and conditioning issue or what the reason was. But there was clearly a reason that the Titans were more injured than any other NFL team constantly.
Sure, but so, I'd rather win games with backups than lose games with starters.
All right. Yeah,
I mean, is that I absolutely 100%.
You're not wrong.
Strength and conditioning should have changed under the Vrabel coaching staff. That was a problem. There is a reason they were the most injured team. However, Vrabel was also able to get effort and wins out of backups when this team can't even find a way to get wins out of their starters.
You're not wrong. I mean, I can't knock you on anything.
I'm not making a case for Vrabel. I'm not saying the guy shouldn't have been fired. I'm just saying if I knew this was the product we were getting, I would have rather gave Vrabel another year. I'll just say that. If hindsight's 2020, if you told me this was the offense I was going to get and this was the results I was going to get, I don't think I'm prepared to say I'm happy with this decision. I think again the jury's still out on that. If this offense can change, if they can evolve, if they can get better, it'll all be water under the bridge. But if Callahan loses his job and he is fired, I know it's a high improbability, but if it does happen, we wasted a year. You basically just wasted a year.
I do not regret at all firing Vrabel and hiring Callahan. I really want to see what happens in the offseason this year, and that'll tell me whether I'm right or wrong. But I'll say this, I definitely don't disagree with firing Vrabel. It's just whether hiring Callahan was a good idea or not. Because as far as I'm concerned, Vrabel was doing the same thing with the same I'll be honest with you, dude. I was really getting tired of it, and I didn't think they would actually fire him, but I mean, I kind of wanted him to. I mean, I kind of wanted him to move on because he clearly wasn't going to get us any kind of offensive game at all. He was going to keep his buddies in there and keep screwing that up. And then he gave us the same crap speech every game after losing every game. I agree. Well, I don't know. I feel like Callahan's a little more, he was a little more candid, probably till Carthon took him in his office and was like, dude, shut your mouth. Stop telling everybody shit. You know, head coaches don't speak like that.
For me, it is just a longer version of Coach Better, Play Better. That's all it is. It's just a much more long-winded version of Coach Better, Play Better. That's it.
I don't know, man. For me, it was just it's the effort. I mean, it's all about effort. For me, Vrabel just comes out there and goes, "Yeah, you know, same, different day." You know, I mean, you got Coach Better, got Play Better, we got to have execution. You know, I mean, it was just almost like a drab thing. And I mean, yeah, look, it's not great watching Callahan talk all either, but I couldn't take any more Vrabel.
You know who loves that though? The players. That's the thing for me. And that's why I feel like, and I'm not saying it can't change, but part of that's why I feel like Vrabel was able to get more effort out of his players. And I know that the locker room at the end was pretty divisive. because, and I feel like part of that was Vrabel wanted more control of this roster. That's kind of been brought up since the firing as more stuffs came out. He just wanted more control of the roster, and the organization, the higher ups, wasn't ready to pull that trigger and give it to him. So yeah, but look, that's in Vrabel's mind, that was a successful recipe because he came from New England. That was what he was used to as a player. That's what he wanted to give his players, because we didn't have rookies coming out saying, well, some guys might not have been trying too hard because it was so cold. We didn't have quarterbacks coming out saying, well, it's my decision whether I start or not. We didn't have people having to walk back stuff that was said at press conferences. And a lot of this is on us as fans because we wanted more than what Vrabel gave us. We wanted more transparency. We wanted more words. We wanted more headlines. We wanted more statements. But I feel like we may have overcorrected a little bit in this locker room because I'm getting much more now than I think we really need. And it's frustrating to go from such a far extreme to another far extreme.
I will say it is a little frustrating watching him stumble through his first season, and he's had some pretty big stumbles, especially on the head coaching and with the media. So there's that. Obviously, Vrabel knew how to carry himself a little bit better because he had Belichick, to watch. I don't know.
He's in college now.
Oh yeah, dude. First of all, that's exactly I called before Ohio State lost to Michigan. I said there's a really high chance that Mike Vrabel ends up at Ohio State.
Oh, I still think there
before
is.
next season.
Absolutely.
And when they lost to Michigan, I said, okay, now there's 100% chance that Mike Vrabel ends up at Ohio State because that's exactly he wanted control. You hit on it earlier, and that's exactly what you get with college teams now. And with the NIL deals, it's not that much different from the NFL. It's really about whoever produces the most money gets the players. And Mike Vrabel's an effort guy, like you just said. He does get more out of the players than Callahan does, obviously. So I feel like it's a good fit for him and for them. So I don't see any losses there.
And I'm going to make a note because that is an interesting discussion to kind of get into because it does affect NFL teams, the new college landscape. Obviously, we don't have time tonight, but I will make a note because I've got a lot of interesting thoughts about Belichick to the NCAA to college football and how that's going to kind of affect things moving forward. But the only way, in my opinion, the only way Vrabel probably isn't at Ohio State next year is if they go win a national championship because it is natty or bust for this Ohio State team. And look, if I'm Ohio State and I just saw Belichick get hired, like I think a lot more college teams are going to try to transition to this ex-NFL coaches because this is now becoming more of a business like the NFL. I think Mike Vrabel, I think he definitely gets a call from Ohio State if there's not a trophy sitting there at the end of the season.
Man, I have a hard time, even if they, I guess if they win the national championship, maybe the guy keeps his job. But even if, I still think there's a decent chance that he could lose his job because he lost to Michigan twice in a row, man. I mean, you don't.
They've lost four times in a row. Four times in a row. There are seniors on this team who have never beat Michigan. And for Ohio State to say that, it is a very serious time in Columbus.
That's my point right there. When was the last time Michigan? Well, no, I guess Michigan was pretty good last year when Harbaugh was there.
I mean, they won a natty, yeah.
Yeah, I had to shut up real quick after that. I was going to say, when the hell the last time you heard Michigan being, a competitive team, but had to kind of go back on that. Anyway, we're rambling now. We're on way tangent city, but anything you want to wrap up before we close out this pre-show for the Titans versus Bengals?
No, just stay with us. There are still things to watch. There are still things to evaluate. We'll have all the details in the post game of this one come Monday. we kind of talked about, I don't think it's necessary to give predictions. I think everybody's kind of in unison on how we think this could go, but there's still a lot of reasons to watch, and it would be very much like a Titans team to just roll out there and put up 45 and beat the Bengals. Like I don't know what to expect anymore. So for all the fun, for all the excitement, and for all the details, stay with us, and we'll talk to y'all next time.
Yeah, and if you're already subscribed to us, you know what to do. Just share us. Thank you. We appreciate you. If you haven't, check us out on YouTube. You get some pretty exclusive stuff on there. That's pretty much it. Until next time. Thanks for hanging. Tighten up.
Tighten up.
Peace out.